There we go.
Derek?
Hey, how's it going, Danny?
Going good. How are you?
All right, doing well.
Good.
Like your barrels back there, looking good.
Yeah, it's good background.
Do you know what you're standing in front of?
What barrels I'm in front of? I can see two of them. Yeah, I know most of them. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, very cool. So where were we up to today? What's like a
Today?
yeah?
We loaded and unloaded a few trucks, and we racked some barrels of wine. So went into the tank, cleaned the barrels, and went back into the barrel with the wine. And that was the majority of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing that essential work. Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because people, after harvesting, people think they always talk about a downtime, and there's never a downtime because as soon as you're done with one harvest, your previous harvest wines are still in barrel, and you got to work with those. And by the time you're done with those, you're just working on the harvest you just finished. So it just keeps going and going.
Yeah, that's good. Well, good for us that we have so many wines to try.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I know. Yeah, we're going to show off, quite a few tonight, and the new labels too. Got those ready to go.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just wait another minute just to make sure we get everybody, live that wants to join, and then we'll get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Make sure I have everything here. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. Nice. Professional question. If you kind of is it okay to put Chardonnay in the freezer for like 45 minutes?
Certainly. It depends on how the Chardonnay is made. We'll get into this with ours, but if it's an oak, you're going to want to cool it less than a stainless Chardonnay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That oak component will come out the colder you get the wine.
Okay.
If it's like ours, it's in completely old oak. We don't really put any new oak on it, but we still have it in oak, and that's still going to impart a little bit of flavor. And as you get a wine colder, that oak will become more prevalent in the wine.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. Okay, good. All right, well, good. I'm gonna be sure to ask that. I think we could probably get started officially now.
Okay.
So this is a wave to everyone out there watching us. Hello, welcome to SIP with us here. I'm your host, Derek Mehn. This is a live streaming show where we shelter in place while we sip some wines. And I know what you're thinking out there. Wow, do you make a living creating hilarious wine-related acronyms? Thank you, but no. Normally, I'm actually an actor and a writer living here with my family in Los Angeles. But this quarantine has us doing some crazy things. Like, for example, even though Easter was well over a week ago, my children have still held 247 Easter egg hunts since then. So what I'm saying is, normally I'd be doing other work, but like a lot of folks, my normal work is on hold right now. And that is especially true for all of the restaurant and tasting room employees at all your favorite wineries. So that's the other great part about this show, is that a portion of tonight's proceeds from our featured wines go towards relief for those employees. So, with that said, let us sip some wine for a good cause as we travel north to Walla Walla, Washington. Boy, is that fun to say. And right above me is where you'll find Tamarack Cellars, maker of wine, Danny Gordon. Hello, Danny.
Hello. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. We're going to talk about all of your great wines in a second, but first, let's talk a little about you, Danny.
All right.
First of all, how did you get that unique title, maker of the wine?
Well, so several years back, when I was kind of the winemaker here, I had been the winemaker for quite a few years, and the former owner of Tamarack was also the winemaker, and so one day he went out and got business cards, and he came back and mine said winemaker. And I was like, oh wow, these are great. But his said winemaker owner, and I said, well, if we're at the same event and we're doing that work together, isn't that going to be a little confusing for people? I mean, people like to know there's a winemaker in the other part, and so I decided that I would kind of try and find my another title for myself. So out of that, I became the maker of the wine.
That's great. See, another acronym, MOW, right? And then here in Hollywood, MOW usually stands for Movie of the Week. That's kind of what the lingo is down here.
Right.
And so I can imagine a nice, movie of the week, like a Hallmark Channel kind of movie or a Lifetime, one of those, maybe featuring a passionate but lonely winemaker, who, despite living in the Pacific Northwest, wears shorts almost all the time.
Well, maybe not the lonely, because I have a wonderful family, but the rest of that could fit me very well.
Very cool, nice, good. I also heard in an interview that you did before that you like to hunt mushrooms, and so I just want to know what makes one a hunter of mushrooms. Do you wear camouflage so as not to scare the mushrooms, or how does that work?
No, you don't. You don't have to wear camouflage. They're not too skittish. They are hard to spot, and the fun part about it is you go up there and you won't see anything, and you're looking and looking, and then you spot one, and then all of a sudden they're everywhere. But you have to get that one spotted, because they do blend. It's mostly morels that I hunt, and so they blend well with the ground. And then you spot one, and you just start looking around, and all of a sudden they're everywhere. But you have to get that one spotted first.
Nice. It's like one of those 3D pictures that you have to unfocus your eyes and see.
Exactly.
Nice. Great. And then so you started all the way back with Tamarack in 1999 when there were just 12 wineries in Walla Walla. So now that there's 150 or so, do you kind of look at other wineries and be like, oh, you started in the 21st century? That's cute.
Not really. I mean, I came to the wine industry without studying it in school. I didn't go to college for it. I have an ag degree. And so I was lucky to get my start when it was so young, because there weren't all these people congregating in Walla Walla to make wine. So there was an opportunity for someone who had a passion, but, not necessarily the education and the experience to be able to get in on the ground floor. And what really sold it for me was being able to get on the ground floor with one other person at the winery. And so I got exposed to literally everything you do in a winery, from sampling grapes to all the way out to, working with distributors and everything in between. And that's really what got me sold on it, that entire process and getting to experience all of that right from the get-go.
That's great. Yeah, it's kind of like producing your own live show from your dining room. The lighting, the sound, the set, the costume, it's all you.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of things that are younger, let's start with our first wine tonight.
Okay.
Your 2018 Chardonnay. I'm going to give that the place of honor right here. Boom. It'll be a little backward probably for the people at home, but
mine as well.
There you go. That's the look of it. For myself, we were just talking right before we officially started that about not necessarily, you want to cool your wine, but maybe not in the freezer.
Yeah, so what Tamarack does with Chardonnay is we do about 2/3 of it in French oak barrels and 1/3 of it in stainless steel. But all of the French oak barrels we use are older. We use, if any, we use maybe just 2% or so of new oak. And so the goal there is we don't want to cover up any of the fruit and the nice acidity that occurs in Chardonnay by covering up with the buttery kind of component you can get from new oak.
Right.
But on the same side of it, we also want a little bit of that nice kind of creamy mouthfeel you can get from having the wine in a barrel.
Nice. All right.
And what we were talking about with the cooling is if you have wine that has been in a barrel, the more you cool it, the more oak or barrel component tends to come out of the wine. So while ours can be cooled because it is partially stainless, you don't want to cool it down all the way to like refrigerator temperature, or you're going to kind of have a little bit of that oak jumping out.
Very good to know for everyone at home. Set your wine coolers, right? And then so for everyone at home, we're going to do a little taste, and I encourage you guys to sip and say, so you can post your comments in our feed and let us know what flavor profile you get. We'll see if you have sommelier taste buds.
So what Tamarack is trying with the Chardonnay, we're trying to express that fruit, have that nice acidity, have that little bit of creaminess with it. So it's not like Riesling where it's 100% in stainless usually, and it has that really, really bright acidity.
Right.
But we also harvest fruit from not just Walla Walla, but all over eastern Washington. So which is quite an area. We can cover 20 or 25,000 miles in 2 months during harvest between sampling and harvesting fruit. And we get fruit from all of those ranges, and Chardonnay included. So what we do is we'll start harvesting Chardonnay maybe late August, early September, but then the last Chardonnay we pick might come off in October. And so we get this really wide range of flavors in our Chardonnays, bring them back to the winery, and then we combine all of those into this one bottle.
All those flavors in one bottle.
Yeah, so early nights are warmer. They tend to be more tropical. And then as you move along, you kind of go into the stone fruits in the middle. And then usually the later sites tend to have more of the pear and kind of green apple component to it.
Right.
Get all those individual components in the winery and then combine them.
Wow, yeah, it really comes through. That's great. And then, speaking of things that are sweet, Walla Walla is famous for their sweet onions, right?
Yes, we are.
So which wine pairs best with the Walla Walla sweet onion? And inquiring minds want to know, where in town do you get the best onion rings?
That's a good question. There's several places that do Walla Walla sweet onion rings and do them from scratch that are really good. If I was pairing a wine with just onion rings, because usually you have a burger with it, so you have to think about that too.
Okay.
I think I would probably lean more towards a rosé because you have the burger component, and but you also in a rosé you have that really nice acidity and tends to be a little bit more fruit forward and would probably work well with the onion rings.
Right.
It depends if you're putting barbecue sauce or ketchup or what you're dipping them in, or ranch or some of those things. But yeah, I think a nice rosé would probably do pretty well.
Okay, great. That sounds good. Okay, good. Yeah, so I think everybody's kind of posted similar, mentioned a lot of those fruits that you were talking about. So that's the white. I want to get one more. I have good white. And then now we're going to move on to our second wine that we're tasting tonight. This is the 2016 Firehouse Red. It's our backwards label, right? So this is what everyone is used to seeing right here. The namesake, right, of yours, I think one of your most popular wines. The namesake comes from the location of the original winery in the World War II firehouse.
Correct. Yeah.
So, yeah. When you were starting out, what does that mean? You guys were like sliding down poles to press the grapes and like putting out fires with wine. What was that all about?
So the Tamarack started in 1998, and I started in 1999. So while I wasn't there to harvest the first vintage, I actually did bottle the 98 wine. So I've been a part of every vintage. In 98, the winery wasn't actually in the firehouse, and then in 99 we moved into the firehouse. And it's a World War II firehouse because the airport complex or area where Tamarack is located is an old World War II Army base. So this is a B-24 and B-17 bomber training base. And the building that Tamarack started in was the fire station for that World War II base.
Yeah. That's very cool. So the old school then meets the new school, because this is what folks will be seeing starting with the 2017 vintage, right?
Yes, that'll be the new Tamarack label, starting with the 2017 Firehouse Red, which probably will be on grocery store shelves maybe by the beginning of June.
Nice.
We're pretty close to moving on to that.
Okay.
So
yeah, this is nice. So this is kind of exciting. This is like in the new spring line, right, or the new summer fashion show for your labels. We should like kind of have her like on a little catwalk here, like, oh, look at her, look what she's wearing. She's got a lovely new font. Oh, and look at that tee. She's gone from just a solid straight tee with a little flare on the tee now. Very nice. And we've gone from the outline of the tamarack tree to what looks like a close-up of the branch and some of the cones.
Correct. Yes, that is a Tamarack. I have a bottle right here. It is the Tamarack branch, cones, and needles on the label.
Nice. And then I'm going to pour myself a little bit of the red. And then, yeah, the Tamarack tree is pretty unique as far as pine trees, right?
It is. So Tamaracks are technically a larch, and a larch is a division of the pine family. But all larch trees are deciduous conifers. And so what that means is they have needles, they have cones, but they drop the needles in the fall and then regrow fresh new needles in the spring. And there's several larches, but there's only two other trees outside of the larch family that do that. One is the Dawn redwood and one is the bald cypress. And so those are basically the only three deciduous conifers you can find.
Wow. So in that honor, do you kind of like shave your head after every harvest, to kind of like symbolize that? Or
I have gone through a harvest without a haircut or a shave. Not super popular. But the great thing about tamaracks are they're a very local thing with the Walla Walla area. We have the wonderful Blue Mountains just a couple miles from out of town, and you can literally stand at the Tamarack Winery and look up into the mountains, and you can see a grove of tamarack trees versus a grove of evergreens, like a different fir or spruce, because of the color of the needles.
Yeah, they stand out. Very good. All right, everyone. So here we go again. We're going to do a tasting 2016 Firehouse Red. Cheers. Great. And yeah, everyone feel free to kind of, in your comments, tell us what you're tasting. Let's see.
Yeah, this has been a very popular wine for Tamarack. It's nationally distributed, but we started it out, more locally in the Northwest, and it has a really, really strong following. It's done very well for us over the years and been very popular. And it changes every year. The blend is not exactly the same every year, but we really strive to make it consistent, and people have really come to have a certain expectation of the wine year to year, and I think we've been meeting that every year because everybody keeps buying.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So what kind of pressure do you face, or what are some of the factors, or one of the variables that goes into deciding what the blend is?
Well, so there's a few things that Tamarack we do differently with it. So one of the things is we don't use the wine to hide a bad wine. So there's a saying: if you have a little bit of a bad wine, a lot of a good wine, you mix them, you're going to have a lot of a bad wine. So we always, if we have a wine that needs some work, we're going to work on it separate to see if we can put it in this wine, but we're never going to put it in there to bury it.
Right.
And so, and then the other thing is that we understand that this is the wine that we make the most cases of and everything. And so if we have to steal from some of our other wines that are a little bit more expensive, this wine to a certain point, and we do a little bit less of the others, we're willing to do that because we know how important it is that we get this wine consistent year to year.
Right. Yeah, this is great. It's like the face of your winery here.
Yeah. And it also is multiple varietals. I'm not sure this one does actually list it on the back.
Okay.
Varietals, but there's 9. We've had up to 13 varietals in it at one point. There's this finding the balance of all of those can be a little bit challenging sometimes, and so we really work with that.
Great. Yeah. So just a reminder to everyone. Yeah, your favorite wine. She got a little bit of a facelift, but no artificial ingredients involved in that. Just a little bit of a label design.
Yeah. The only thing that'll be different is the label. The team making the wine, and all of the standards and everything we do with the wine is all still the same.
So instead of this in your store, you'll see this, but still the same great wine. All right, great. Very good. So that's the Firehouse Red. That brings us to wine number 3, and this is the 2015 Sagemoor Reserve. Right here. She's gorgeous. And then I have a different wine glass here. So yeah, can you tell me, I mean, I have a kind of a bowl, right? And I have kind of this guy, tulip, I don't know, whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
What is there a certain wine that you like to put in something that's more rounded?
So I have to say I was very much a non-believer in like glass shape making that big of a difference.
Right.
But I have sat through a seminar and I have been on my own enough that it really does make a difference. So the bowl-shaped one you have there is more of a Pinot Noir glass.
Got it.
And it's amazing the difference, the expression and kind of the difference that happens with that. Whereas this more, the less rounded, more straight up and down,
yeah.
or Bordeaux varietals, it works better. And I don't know the science behind it or anything. I just know experiencing it that it does make a difference.
All right, great. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do a little faux pas and do my last one in the bowl. All right, so let me get my Sagemoor out right here. All right, and then this has been released to your members. This is a single vineyard.
So Sagemoor is actually 4 vineyards. So Sagemoor is the managing umbrella of the 4 vineyards.
Right.
Vineyards one is called Sagemoor, and the other 3 are 3 gods of wine: Bacchus, Dionysus, and Weinbau. The little bit of irony in the wine is that the one vineyard actually we're not using in the Sagemoor blend is Sagemoor. We use Bacchus, Dionysus, and Weinbau. But that's just there's wonderful grapes at Sagemoor. We just don't happen to be getting ones from that particular vineyard, but we do get great stuff from the other 3, including a Bacchus Block 3 Cabernet Sauvignon block that was planted in 1972. Is one of the oldest blocks in the state that was kind of planted for the intention of being a commercially sold block.
Right. Wow. I mean, 3 gods just to handle wine kind of shows you where their priorities were there in ancient Greece.
Yes. Yeah. And the three of those vineyards are very close together in the Columbia Valley appellation, and then Wahluke Slope is actually, Weinbau is actually a little farther way up on the Wahluke Slope, and so you kind of get a little bit different component with that wine, bringing some of those wines into the mix.
Okay, very good. All right, well let's do a little tasting here. Oh yeah. That's nice. And I read on your site that this wine is hand punched 3 times daily. So, I mean, do you have like a CrossFit class that you invite in to kind of like throw some hooks at your fruit, or like what does that mean exactly?
Well, we joke people that if they would pay us what they pay to go to the Y or a workout facility, that we would let them come do it. Come do touchdowns here, and they would get just the same workout.
Right.
But No, it's taking a big heavy stainless steel tool with a big flat bottom, and you're shoving those dry grapes at the top of the fermentation down into the juice.
Right.
So you do that to keep it active, but you're also extracting flavors from the skins as you do that, and extracting color, and you have several different processes going on as you do that process. So the alternative would be like a tank and pump over. So where you have the wine in tank and you pump the juice from the bottom over the top of it.
Right.
This is in smaller containers, and we're able to just get in there and just push them down by hand.
Wow, that's like kind of very artisan. A lot of artisan love there, right?
It is. It's we have a lot of them going. It takes half of our day punching down sometimes.
Wow. Nice. Man, I bet your lats are just ripped.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do it a lot more in years back.
Yeah, when you had all of the time.
I'm a little bit less involved in it, but I'm a lot more involved these days also out in vineyards, deciding when to pick and doing other things as well that weren't on my plate back in those days. Yeah. But it's a little bit more of a young man's game.
Yeah, you get to step back from the punching. Great. I also want to make everyone aware that the Sagemoor Reserve is also going through a label makeover, similar to the Firehouse. And so I have a 2016 is going to look like this.
Yeah, so the Reserve series that is not being sold to all the distributors around the country, that label. And then the Firehouse label, the new Firehouse label, is going on all the wines that we're selling through distributors, and will be more national brands versus not necessarily Wine Club only, but Wine Club, Tasting Room, Direct to Consumer only. Okay, great. So the lucky few will get to see this label in person. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, great. So those are our delicious wines. Those are all three of them. And then right now I want to invite people to kind of do some questions. We'll do a little question and answer. So while everybody that's watching is kind of formulating their questions, I'm going to start the ball rolling. Okay, and I ask you a couple questions myself.
All right.
So question number one, your last name is Gordon, right? Just like Commissioner Gordon in the Batman series, okay? And Adam West is a native of Walla Walla, Washington, and Adam West played the original Batman on TV, okay? And then there's actually an Adam West Day in Walla Walla on September 19th. So my question is, have you ever dressed up as Commissioner Gordon on Adam West Day? And if not, why?
The key word there is the date, September 19th. little busy, kind of in that time. And Adam West Day is actually fairly new.
Okay.
It just. Well, I think when he passed away, I think they kind of started it here, and it's really taken off. There's few. Well, not statues, but bronzes around town and stuff.
Yeah.
Great. Like I know where his original house is that he lived in and some stuff. That's all marketed. But September 19th is a little tough for me to get dressed up. I mean, Halloween is tough. Not even done by Halloween, but September 19th, we're usually well in the thick of it. And I'm just happy to get home and get dinner.
Nice. Yeah. Well, maybe you want to think about going out into the vineyards one day with like a Gotham City windbreaker, you know.
Yeah. Well, the problem is it's still like 80 degrees here, so.
That's right. Okay.
I don't think well.
Good. All right. I have a question from our audience. Is what's one of your favorite releases?
So, wow. Yeah, there's been a lot of them over the years. I think I'd kind of like to talk about the 10 and 11 vintages, because they were colder vintages here that started much later, very different than what we would call our average vintage. And so because of that, they've kind of have gotten a little bit of a bad rap because they're not at like our average vintage and everything. But as a winemaker, that cooler weather, we had lower. We could pick the wines at lower sugars, so we had lower alcohols. There was more acidity in them, and those wines over time are going to show remarkably well. They're going to do really well, and especially things like Merlot, which is the first red wine we pick here. And so when you pick Merlot in a normal or average vintage, sometimes it feels a little bit early when it's still really warm out. And in those vintages, it really got to hang on the vine a long time. And so flavors really got to develop. And so for me, 10 and 11 were maybe some people are like, oh, these were different vintages, and so they're not as good as what the average vintage is in Walla Walla. I think they're going to be outstanding vintages, and they're going to show really, really well for a long time. Wow. The other one I would talk about is 2018. We released a white wine companion to the Firehouse Red called Firehouse White.
Oh, great. Good. That answers.
We did a huge research thing on it and everything, and that was like the number one name that came back.
Oh, great. Okay, so what varietal is it?
So it's a blend. Like I said, it's a white wine blend. This one is based on Pinot Gris, but it also has some Chardonnay in it, and I always joke. My joke is I went out and got all the Pinot Gris Chardonnay blends that I could find to compare it to, which was none, because nobody seemed to be doing that. And so it was a little bit nerve-wracking, having these two grapes to work with.
Right.
Not much, really no experience tasting them together and nobody else to kind of look at. And the wine turned out fantastic. I love it. I thought like, well, I'll make something good and, it'll be good. But I actually am really happy with how it turned out. And so for me, that wine is kind of a special wine. And it's not, we haven't seen it a lot. It didn't get out there for various reasons. Obviously not the quality of it, but for other various reasons. And so that's a wine that if you're looking for a really good summer wine, it's all in stainless. So that's one you put in your fridge. You can get it really cold. You can go out on those summer days. Works really well with the, seafood, that kind of salty, briny seafood. It's got all that acidity, and it's a delicious bottle of wine.
Nice. You're like a mad scientist. I bet after it came to life, you were like, it's alive.
Yeah, and super happy with it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. And then, I have a quiz question for you. Bugs Bunny uses the incantation Walla Walla, Washington to turn Count Dracula into what?
So I knew Bugs Bunny used Walla Walla. I know that.
Uh-huh.
I did not know it was related to Count Dracula.
Yeah. All right. Phone a friend, and phone a friend says he turns Count Dracula into a two-headed vulture.
A two-headed vulture.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen my Bugs Bunny, but I definitely remember.
Yeah, it's not a current reference. It's another key rule of comedy, Danny, is always make sure your references are super old and that no one gets them. Okay? It's a comedy thing. Okay, great. Well, that's going to probably wrap it up for today's episode of Shelter in Place. I'm Derek Mehn. I'm going to bring back out our wines that we tasted today. Our Chardonnay, the Firehouse. Where's my Firehouse? Do I have the old one? Yes. And the Firehouse. Boom. Here are our three wines today. So the Chardonnay, the Firehouse Red, the Sagemoor Reserves. And remember, if you're not a wine club member, it's great. I can attest to the delight of being in a quarantine and having wine delivered to your door. It's amazing. You can purchase online. And remember, a portion of these proceeds are going to raise money for all of the tasting room and restaurant employees affected by the shutdown. So it's a win-win. You're enjoying some great wines and you're helping some folks out. So I'd like to thank Danny Gordon. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you, Derek.
All right. Yeah. And we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Okay, cheers.